Hello, this video is going to be a quick admin overview on how to modify your brokerage system to match your brokerage's workflow. This is a great video for either first-time users or any admin looking to get a quick refresher on how to do certain processes within your brokerage system. Brokerment is a back-office transaction management software that covers the deal from contract to close. It's designed to be used by agents, admins, and their transaction coordinators. Importantly, Brokerment also integrates with outside vendors like MLSs, CRMs, accounting softwares like QuickBooks, and even Google Drive and Dropbox. One of the most important changes you can make is to go into Settings and into Company Settings. Here, you can upload your brokerage logo, brokerage name, and brokerage address. You can update this information as often as you like, but keep in mind that the name of your brokerage here will appear on any commission disbursement authorization that you create through Brokerment. So it's very important that this information is accurate. The next setting we're going to be covering are the user settings. To create a new user, we'll click on Create User, and our first step will be filling in our required information. Step 2, we'll be modifying that user's individual permissions. Step 3, we'll be adding on any of our commission plans. And step 4 will be how to save the user. Once we're done, we'll click Create User. If for any reason we need to deactivate one of our users, we can come in and switch our toggle from active to inactive. An inactive user does not count against your seat count, cannot log into the system, but will remain as a part of any transaction they were formerly attached to. The next section we're going to be covering under Settings are our checklists. These are added to transactions to tell your agents what documents and tasks need to be completed. Your account will come with a couple of pre-created checklists for you. To create your own checklist from scratch, you'll click Add Template and give that checklist a name. To modify an existing checklist, select it from the list. Your checklist tasks will show up in order of creation, with an icon to identify whether it requires a document or not, the checklist or task name, and when that item is due. To modify an existing task, simply give it a click, where you can set who that task is to be completed by, change its name, add in a description if necessary, mark whether it requires a document or not, and set its due date. However many days, whether they are business or calendar days, due before or after, and then tied to any date in your transaction. To create a new task, you'll come up to Action and select Add Task. Your Action button also gives you the ability to rename any checklist template, make a cloned copy of one, or simply delete a checklist. Now the next section we're going to talk about are fields. There are a lot of different options here, so feel free to watch any of the individual videos we have on these sections. The one part I do want to mention in this overall video are the transaction fields. This is the section we can come to modify the fields that are going to prompt you and your agents to complete within a transaction. You can modify any existing field by selecting it from the list. To create a new field, we'll start by clicking Add Field, giving that field a name, setting what type of field it is. If it's a drop-down, you can add on as many options as you need. And and then whether that field is going to be required or not. Under a requirement, we have two options. We can make the field required always, or only when a transaction becomes a certain status. For instance, if it's information we know we're not going to have until a transaction goes pending, they can wait. For example, if it's information we know we're not going to have until the transaction becomes pending, we can mark that field required at that time. We'll click Save to create that new field, and it will be placed at the bottom of our list. If it's an important field that we'd like to make available a little earlier on in the process, we can reorganize our fields by simply grabbing it and dragging it up our list, and dropping it wherever we like. The next and final section to cover underneath settings are our commission plans. You can click here to create any type of commission plan that you need. We have everything from simple plans to sliding scale caps that adjust depending on the numbers your agents are bringing in. Now, there are too many details to cover in an overall training like this, so feel free to view our separate article on commission plans. The main piece I want you to know is that to create a new commission plan, we'll start by clicking Add Plan and giving that new plan a name. Now that we have our new plan created, we can add on any deductions that need to be paid by the company as either a pre or post commission deduction. Items that need to come off either before or after any and all agents get paid. Under the Paid by Agent section, we can add on any pre or post split deductions. Any items that need to come off either before or after an individual agent gets paid. And then by clicking on the split here, we can set how much we're going to be paying to the agent. One thing to keep in mind with the split is that it's always going to be agent facing. For example, if we have a 60-40 split where we pay the agent 60% of commission and keep 40 for the brokerage, we'll set our split to 60. And finally, click Save. Now that we've created a new commission plan, we can assign it to a user by going back into the User section, selecting our agent, clicking the drop-down for commission plans, and clicking Add Plan. We can add as many commission plans to an agent's profile as necessary. To remove a plan, simply click the X on the far right. The next section I'd like to cover are our notifications. These are all email notifications that the system sends out once certain triggers have been met. The column on the left gives us our notification name, followed by its frequency, whether it's a daily summary email that comes out once a day, or if it's an immediate notification that comes out as soon as the trigger happens. You can turn any of your notifications on or off however you see fit, and if you're not entirely sure what would trigger a notification, like our transaction revoked one for example, simply give it a click, and the top right corner will give us a brief description of those triggers. Now that you've done some basic system configuration inside of Brokerment, new transactions are ready to be created. Most probably just pass this part of the process on to the agents. However, if you're going to be creating transactions for your agents, or if you just want to have a good understanding of what you will be doing inside the system, action now. When you're ready, you'll hit the Create Transaction button. If your brokerage is connected to a searchable MLS, you'll see the option for Search MLS. Feel free to view our user guide article on full feed MLS integrations for more information on that. For this video, we'll be creating a new transaction from scratch. Once we select Create New, creating our transaction will happen across 3 steps. The first will be our transaction details. We can set our transaction type and our status, whether it's listing or pending. In our system, pending will be for any time we have a buyer. If we represent the buyer, we can create the transaction as pending. If we represent the seller, we'll create it as a listing and switch to pending once we've accepted an offer. We'll talk more about that once we get the deal created. For now, we're going to be creating a listing. We'll go ahead and input our property address and our sale price. We'll fill in our listing date and our expiration. The very bottom here lists out all of our additional fields, which we were just modifying earlier. Once we're done with our transaction details, we'll click Next, and step 2 is going to be Agents and Commissions. The top portion of this is our total gross commission. By definition, this represents how much is going to be available to both sides of the deal. If we know our listing side's getting 3% and our buy side gets 3%, that'd make our total gross here 6. Although it is perfectly fine to track just your own side of the transaction at a minimum. For example, if you represent the buyer and you're not sure what the listing side's getting, you can simply leave this as 3, 0, and 3. Now that we have our percentages in, we'll hit select on the side we're representing. Here, our brokerage is already chosen, so we'll hit save. And now we have a new option that appears, Add Agent/Commission. We'll give that a click. We'll select Add Agent, and we'll add on the individual who's going to be getting paid for this deal. We now have a new option that appeared, Add Agent/Commission. From here, we'll give that a click and select Add Agent. Then we'll add on the name of the individual who's going to be getting paid for this deal. If we have access to commissions, we'll be able to select which plan we're going to be using for this particular transaction. We'll hit save, and now we'll come down and hit next. Step 3 are simply contacts. To add a contact, we'll click Add Contact and select their role. In this case, we're going to be adding on our seller. If the contact exists in our system already, we'll see them show up from our list. If not, we'll be able to create new by clicking on Create New. We can set that contact's role, whether it's going to be publicly available to everyone else in our brokerage or available only to us. Once we're done with our contacts, we'll click Create. And now we have our transaction. Now that the deal has been created, we need to add on a checklist. Once we click Add, we'll select which template is going to apply to this particular deal. And if we have our due date set, we can see it's bringing over our listing date. If you've set any of those tasks to be completed by anyone other than the transaction owner, you'll now be prompted to fill in who is responsible for completing those items. Now that we have our transaction checklist, we can see our due dates on the left, followed by who they're due from, and then whether they require a document or not. Items that do not require documents, we can simply check off the box to mark them as complete. For tasks that do require documents, there's 3 ways to upload them into Brokerman. We can start by clicking Upload, selecting the file from our computer and opening it that way. We could also open up our File Explorer where we keep all of our documents saved. Select any that we need for this particular transaction, and then drag and drop them directly to our browser. Once the system's done processing and uploading these, they're going to be placed in a section called the Unsorted Documents folder. Now the third and final way to upload documents in a Brokerment is by adding via email. Each transaction that you create within Brokerment comes with its own unique email address. You can CC this on any correspondence with clients, and any documents that are attached to that email will flow directly into our Unsorted. From here, we can e-sign any of these documents, download them to our computer, email them out as a general attachment. We also have the ability to delete, rename any files, merge multiple documents together, or split multi-page documents apart. To merge, we'll select Merge With and add on any additional documents. Give it a new name. And once we click Merge, the system will combine everything together into that single file while leaving the originals in place. To split, we'll select Split from the list. Here, I can say that pages 1 through 4 are going to be an item from my checklist. Once I start typing in any items that match what I'm typing that still require a document will appear. The more I type, the more I narrow down that list. I can say pages 5 and 6 are going to be a survey. As I see, no task currently matches that name I typed in. To create a new task for this document, I can click on New and Save. Lastly, we'll say that pages 7 through 9 are going to be miscellaneous documents. If I have files that I do not necessarily need my admins to review, but would like to keep track of them within the transaction, I can have those sorted right back into the Unsorted section. Once I click Split, the system will go ahead and break everything up. Here's the 3 pages we called miscellaneous, and if I check my documents, I can see the listing agreement we just pushed over and the survey task we just created. To attach the rest of our documents from our Unsorted section to a checklist task, we'll select Assign To and choose which task that document belongs to. If we need, we can also create a brand new task from here as well. If we realize we've uploaded the wrong document to a task by mistake, we can either unassign that document, which removes it from the task and places it back into our Unsorted section, or we can delete the document. No matter what we do within the transaction, everything is recorded in our activity log. This serves essentially as an audit trail for the transaction. Any documents that are uploaded to the deal automatically get created as an archived copy as well. So in the event that I do delete a document that may have been by mistake, I can give this link here a click, and it'll download a brand new copy directly to my computer. For any of our tasks that we may not actually need the document for on this particular transaction, think lead-based paint disclosures. Instead of uploading a dummy document or trying to delete the task, we can simply come up and mark this task as exempt. An exemption request gets submitted to our admins for approval, and it's always good to leave a comment behind to let them know why we requested that exemption. For the rest of our files, to submit those to an administrator for a review, we can select the individual task and click Submit, or we can come up to Action, Submit for Review to send up all of our documents at once. We can now see that all of our statuses have changed to say Pending Approval. There are 2 ways, if you have the ability to approve docs, to do so within the system. Directly from the transaction, we can click our Review button here, or from our main menu, under To Do, we can come into Approve Docs. This will show us all of the transactions that currently have documents waiting for our approval. We can see the property address, how many documents are waiting on us, the agent that's submitted them to us, and when they were submitted. simply give the transaction we'd like to review a click, and the system will take us into that module. From here, we're able to see any comments that were left behind and add any new ones. We have an info tab for general information on the transaction itself, a separate tab for any contacts that have been added to that transaction, and the final one here will give you an overview of the documents inside that transaction, to include what's currently pending review, how many tasks are still missing their documents, how many are still in unsorted. To approve a document, we'll simply click Approve. To reject, we'll click Reject, but the system will require a comment to be left behind to let the agent know why we rejected it. Exemption requests will show it without a document present, but will say exemption requested. Just like with documents, rejecting one will require a comment to be left behind. Once we're done with our process, we'll send a notification back out to the agent saying, "Hi, I took a look at this transaction. I approved this many documents and rejected this many." We'll click Submit to send that notification back to the agent. Once we're back in our transaction, if we were to come into Documents, we can see our rejected document has turned bright red to let us know that there's a problem here, and our status is updated to say Rejected. All of our approved items say Approved, and our rejected exemption request allows the upload button to return so the agent can upload the correct file. We're able to click the drop down to see any comments that were left behind for us. As we continue along with our process and we finally do accept an offer from a buyer, we'll click Edit and switch the transaction to pending. When we do so, the system's going to ask us who represents the buyer, whether it's our own brokerage or another contact we need to enter. Any fields that we made required when pending are now going to prompt to be completed. From Edit, you can also delete the transaction, cancel the transaction, close the transaction, or move it to another account if applicable. The ability to edit, delete, cancel, and close, and move all are dependent on your individual user permissions. If you do not have the ability to access one of these, you'll need to reach out to one of your office admins to get those necessary permissions. Going back to our main menu here, let's take a look at our pipeline. So our pipeline shows us a 6-month overview of all the transactions in our system. The first 2 buckets show you all of your current listing and pending deals, followed by anything closed this month, and then anything closed or canceled in the previous 5 months. Clicking on each layer of the bucket will show us exactly what's inside. I can see here I currently have 18 listings with a personal net income of about $39,000. Depending on my level of permissions, by clicking this button in the top right corner, I may also be able to switch to see office income. Switching over, all of our financials will change. And if at any time I want to take a deeper dive into one of these transactions, I can simply give it a click and the system will take me straight to it. And that's the main parts of our admin training video we're going to be covering today. If you have any further questions, we encourage you to check out our user guide section by clicking on the Need Help button in the bottom right corner of your screen and going into User Guide. We have many great training videos and articles that cover everything from agent training to more detailed items like splitting documents and even some things we didn't cover in today, like reports. You can also utilize our online chat for quick answers to your questions. Again, by coming to our Need Help button, and this time selecting online chat. Thank you very much for watching, and thank you for your continued business with us. Have a great day.